Top news for the last week. Monday for Ukrainians began as usual not with coffee but with rocket attacks. And again, energy and civilian infrastructure were damaged, while Ukrainian military are only hitting Russian military facilities on territory belonging to Ukraine. Russia spent about $700 million just for modern attack on Ukraine. It is about 50 cruise missiles. And for example, this one cost $13 million just for one. Respectively, this one, $7.5 million for one. And this is actually a half of annual budget of some big cities in Russia. And let me remind you that the most Russian cities look like this one. Well, the rationality of budget allocation really isn't their strong point. Russian troops continue to be transferred to Belarus. Kyrylo, the head of the main Directorate of Intelligence of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, believes that in case if Russia will lose Kherson, they may attempt a breakthrough from Belarus. Russia and Belarus even prepared a plan for military training for next year, 2023. Russia from Belarus will launch an offensive where there will be about 50 or 70,000 Russian troops. Currently there is just 4,000. In the temporarily occupied Sevastopol, Crimea, there were drone strikes on the fleet of Russia, and of course they blamed Ukraine and used it as a reason of suspension of the Black Sea grain deal. But Ukraine didn't sign any agreements with Russia, so despite the pathetic efforts of Russia Federation, Ukraine with the help of Turkey continued to export grain, and after the call of Turkish President Erdogan, the terrorist Putin agreed to rejoin a UN-backed initiative to allow Ukrainian grain export. The New York Times reported that Putin's closest associates discussed the use of nuclear weapon in Ukraine. Kremlin courtier Dmitry Medvedev, mostly known as previous president of Russia, came out of bench and declared that if Ukraine will return its territories that actually Russia illegally, temporarily annexed, it is a direct pretext to nuclear conflict. Well, otherwise civilized people really can't understand what happens in the head of those Russians. And also, currently, Russians have placed their military equipment at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and has already provoked an environmental disaster. On November 2, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant was completely de-energized due to Russian shelling. And also, Russian military has created a huge ecological threat in the Dnipro River on the Kherson region, where occupiers just blow out the ships that they can't take away, and as a result tons of hidden oil and fuel just leaking into the Dnipro River. CNN, citing a White House coordinator, claims that North Korea is secretly supplying Russia with artillery shells. North Korea is trying to hide the final destination, but however, in fact, the significant amount of Korean ammunition comes to Russia Federation for the war against Ukraine. And for the last, I just want to remind that the occupiers continue to forcibly deport residents of Kherson region to Russia, especially children. As usual, more detailed information you can see by the links under the video. And glory to Ukraine, and waiting for our victory with the help of our Western partners.